meaningful movers. Welcome back to Moving With Me, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the power of not only seeking information, but the impact of being informed. But y'all know how it is and what we do. We need to set that theme, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is inquire. This is to actively seek information through careful, though curious questions. I believe we all have a moment, well, several moments, where our current understanding is challenged. When you are genuine and open to the idea that maybe, perhaps, there is a missing clue to the puzzle, and then once you have that, what you can do with it. That's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than himself. Alan, why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you're going to share with us today?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I actually adore audio-only interviews because I think it allows you to get into a different kind of flow when you're not worried about your hair being messed up and whether or not you've got something on your face on the camera. So I'm very grateful to be here. I really appreciate it. I heard a quote a couple days ago from a different podcaster who said, I like to mean what I say and then say what I mean. And meaningful movers. I like that title a lot because ultimately I think we all should be optimizing for meaning. And when I was the least fulfilled in my life is when I was not optimizing for meaning. I was optimizing for things unconsciously that really weren't serving me. So thank you so much for having me.
For sure. Look, we got another next level. Is it Next Level University?
Yes, Next Level U, pun intended.
Yeah, okay. So last time we interviewed Kevin Palmieri, and now we got a business partner here, Alan, on the call. These guys are booked, so I'm glad to just get some of the time going on here. You do a lot with business leadership, self-improvement, productivity, fitness. You're all those coaches?
I would say that the main thing that I do, what I was just on with a client prior to this, her name's Nikita. She's from Dubai. She's actually a brand new client. I said, ultimately what I do is you tell me your goals and we make sure that those goals are aligned with who you really are. And if they are, then we dig into the metrics, habits, skills, and identity necessary to achieve them. And while that sounds very maybe simple, it's actually a whole thing that needs to be worked on consistently over time in order to actually achieve your goals. And so, yeah, I do productivity, I do leadership, I do business, I do self-improvement. The tagline is level up yourself, level up your podcast, level up your business. But a lot of it really is metrics, habits, identity, and skills.
Okay. I think when we talked before, you mentioned that you do business coaching. Your women to men ratio is different. And you were surprised by that a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, tell me, what's your women to men ratio that you currently have right now?
That's actually a great question. Let me pull up So I just got my 27th client, literally right at my new client, Nikita. She just booked weekly coaching right in the middle of you and I meeting, which is very exciting. I'm super pumped because she wants to grow her brand and her business, and she seems like a wonderful soul. But yeah, so I'm looking at my list right now. I have 7 men, 8 men out of 27. So let me do the math on that. I'm a big numbers guy. I got my calculator out. So let's do 8 divided by 27. We're looking at 30% men, 70% women.
Hoo-hoo. What are you getting out of this when you're speaking with women? Because, I mean, you're a man. So obviously some of these things that are coming up for women, they're kind of a little surprising to you. What are some of those things that you're finding?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot I've learned, actually. So the first thing that I think is very statistically clear to me, and again, I need to preface every podcast from now on, I've decided to say I'm an engineer. And Kev, my business partner, you know Kev,
yeah.
He was with you on this show, and he said, yeah, now that you say I'm an engineer, now you have permission to be a dick. And I said, no, that's not why I'm saying it. I say it because I think in numbers and formulas and mathematics and statistics, and I say truths that might be hard to hear, but I do believe they're statistically true. So I'm trying to say them because I believe in candor deeply. So statistically speaking, women are more humble. That is very clear. It's very clear at this stage. They also tend to be more vulnerable and more open about their challenges. And I think that humility actually creates an opportunity for more self-belief, because when you're really humble, you start small and you're willing to build. And so it's been really cool. So I've definitely learned a ton. I've often said I've learned more from my clients than they've learned from me, because I have 27 people I'm learning from, and they only have one person they're learning from. So I'm getting the better end of the deal.
For sure. So when you say women are humble, so you're a numbers guy, I'm a words woman, okay?
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so when I looked at humble before, it was not to say that you are downplaying your value. You're pretty aware of your value. It's just like you're not throwing it in someone's face. You're not overconfident with the value that you provide, but you know you have value. So is that kind of what you mean when you refer to humble?
Yeah, I took a training recently that talked about the ways we lie to ourselves, the ways we lie to each other. I've always been fascinated by psychology, and the 3 ways we lie to ourselves and each other is we inflate, we deflate, or we omit. And usually just out of insecurity. So some of us are insecure about how great we are, so we deflate. Some of us are insecure about how not great we are, so we inflate. And some of us are vulnerable and scared of and in shame of certain things about ourselves, so we omit and we don't share those things. And I think it takes courage and vulnerability and humility to really own all of who you are. And so I think humility is an accurate understanding of one's own importance. It's an accurate understanding and assessment of yourself. It's self-awareness and an accurate understanding of your own value. It's not deflating, inflating, or omitting. It's owning all of who you are, good, bad, ugly, I think.
Yeah, good. I like that too. So, because I'm a woman, so for me, and might be a different perception, I go through the world thinking like, man, y'all got it. Like y'all... Like if we were to stand, side by side and go at the workforce at the same way, I know that I have to, and it is not just because of my demographic as far as my ethnicity, but just gender. Seriously, as a woman, I feel like I have to be overeducated. I have to have 10, 5, whatever, 2, 3 times of the experience, even just when I walk in the door, to be looked at as someone in contention for a role or a job. Is that what you get a lot from other women?
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people have a overcorrection to insecurity, and I think women deal with that more maturely. And so it's very known, I think, globally that women mature faster than men. I often joke, my beautiful girlfriend, Emilia, future wife, she is 6 years younger than me, but you'd never know it. Seriously. So she just turned 30, so I'm going to be 36 in November 17th. And so I'm going to be Alan version 3.6. And Alan version 3.6 is a peer, a mentor, and a mentee, a lover, everything to Emilia 3.0. But you better believe Alan 3.0, there's no freaking chance that he would have been with Emilia 3.0. And that's just the truth. Now, most men won't admit that, which is actually the problem. But at the end of the day, I think that if we are deeply insecure and haven't dealt with our trauma and done the inner work, it's going to be very hard to not be, I call them puffer fish and turtle shells. So there's also a blend of turtle puff. It's kind of like a Pokemon reference, but puffer fish are someone who's really, really deeply insecure about them not being capable enough, not smart enough, not good enough. And so they puff up all the time and they have to dominate every conversation. And a lot of men fall into that category statistically. And then there's the turtle shell, which is someone who actually deflates their value and hides and doesn't want to shine because they're actually afraid of success. Because every time they were successful, maybe their male counterpart would get really insecure and then lash out or that kind of thing. So, and again, I don't want this to be men versus women, but at the end of the day, we all deal with this stuff. I just think statistically speaking, it's very clear if you look at the research that women tend to turtle and men tend to puff. And men statistically, I do believe, are a little more entitled just due to the patriarchal nature of generational trauma.
Gosh, you're so right. And I've heard this from other women in general. They will say the same thing. Like, I mean, I don't mean to expose some secrets of what happens in women's conversations when they're away from their counterpart.
Please do, because I'm in those conversations too, actually. Because I coach couples, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to share this just so for context. Emilia and I started coaching couples 4 years ago. We have a podcast called the Conscious Couples Podcast, and it's all about how to flourish in your relationship, both homosexuals and heterosexual couples. But ultimately, with the heterosexual couples, what we end up doing a lot of times is what's called the hybrid model. So I do a call with the man, she does a call with the woman, and then we do a call 4-person session every single month. And it's been really cool to be on both ends of that, because then what we do is we flip-flop, and then I'll have a session with the female and she'll have a session with the male. And so the amount that I've learned from that, I think of it as sort of like two infinity symbols in sort of a four-leaf clover type of thing going on. The feedback loop of all four of us sort of trying to dig deep and figure out what's the challenges that the couple is facing has been really cool, both individually and collectively. So I see you and I'm with you, and I think it's important that you share some of this stuff.
For sure. Well, yeah. Oh, that was good. Because I was just going to ask you, like, did y'all switch? But yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
We call it the hybrid model.
Yeah, that's what you call it? The hybrid model?
Hybrid model.
Okay. Yeah, I bet that is great. And especially if you're going in very objectively, for sure. Women in general, we're over on the side. I mean, it's like we're rolling our eyes like, oh my God, he think he doing something. You know, I mean, we really, and it's like, it has to come out some kind of way. Because if it doesn't come out and it stays in, it's like it's going to come at him. And so it's almost like a vent session, a decompression session that we have with the ladies. And it's not meant for us to like have this male bashing session and then to come back to our husbands and be like, so-and-so said, like, that's not supposed to happen, right? And I know that certain people do that. For me and for the women that we do that with, it's like a laugh session because it's got to get out, because it's frustrating to constantly be in a conversation with someone and know that you can't even really offer an opinion because it's going to be like a fight. I remember it was something so simple, Alan. Like, I'm going to tell you, really simple. I had accidentally like paid the house note twice. Okay, on accident. It wasn't a big deal. And so he was like, yeah, I called them. We should be okay for the next couple months. And I said, well, wait a minute. Are we going to still be paying twice a month? No, you're not listening to me. I just let him talk. But I had to like think about how I could rephrase the question because I guess he was taking it as if I was telling him and not listening to him. So I rephrased it as a question, which I knew I was right in. So I was like, so even though we have set up 2 recurring payments, mine was the accident. Are you saying that for the next month, we're not going to get charged twice? We're not going to stay on a twice a month recurring payment? And he's like, I don't know. Let me go ask. That's a great question. And in that moment, he went back and asked. And then he came back later, and I think he replayed that conversation and was like, that was a really great point, and I'm sorry because I didn't even take it that way when you first said it. And I had, and you know, but I'm not gonna lie, for me, it was hard. It was hard. Like, it took me 2 decades to get to that level, to not lash out at him and be like, you're not listening to me. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not even attacking you. Yeah. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just asking. And it's like, phrasing is a big thing. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. So what you came up against there is a lot of times Emilia will say, I'm actually curious. I'm actually trying to learn, because I'll get defensive when she's asking me why something is or what something is. I'll think that she is assuming that what I'm saying isn't accurate. Yeah. When in reality, she actually just wants to learn. And so one of the reasons why that happens is usually because maybe in childhood number one, your husband unintentionally is feeling disrespected unconsciously, even though you're not disrespecting him. And that's really what's happening. The narrative, the record playing in the back of his mind is, I need to be respected. That's what men have. It's this weird thing of like, you must respect thou, otherwise I am not worthy. And it's, we make fire and drink beer type of thing. So it's very primitive. It's very annoying. And the truth is therapy for men is the most important thing in the world, because you have to start understanding and healing. And it comes from a very young age too. And this isn't talked about enough, I don't think, but men are so mean to each other. It's ridiculous. Like the amount that we dig into each other. I mean, you can't even have an imperfect thought or imperfect moment without your boys being like, you idiot, or what are you, effing soft, and like all this kind of stuff. So when you're a kid, especially little boys in particular, it's always this constant ego bonking of like, who's smarter, who's stronger, who's better, who won the video game. And it really is quite obnoxious. So you almost are up against that forever unless the person is doing the inner work to figure out what is triggering them. Once you identify those triggers, so the habit loop, is trigger, behavior, reward. So the trigger in that case is, I'm not being respected. The behavior is, I'm going to be defensive. And then the reward is, I get to establish dominance and feel more worthy because of that. And unfortunately, that leaves you feeling suppressed and not heard, and that's a dangerous game long term. So what can happen is you can do a pattern interrupt, rephrase it, then have him come back. If he's humble, he'll come back and say, I'm sorry, that's, I didn't realize that was happening. And this goes to, there's a modality of therapy called internal family systems, and I'm not certified to teach it, but what I will share is I've been doing IFS for years now. it's kind of like Inside Out is the best way to think of it. We all have these different emotions at our console. And if you've never seen Inside Out, the Pixar movies Inside Out 1 and Inside Out 2, it's very important for emotional intelligence in general. It's really powerful. But even that, saying that as a man, oh, you like Inside Out too? Like, what are you, soft, right? So all of that has to go, because otherwise men are just going to continue to be unexpressed, suppressed, unfulfilled, consistently insecure, and keep needing to prove our dominance in these really toxic ways. And so I think the true solution is to understand we all have this exile. It's a core wound, and everyone has a different one. There's 3 main core wounds, I think. And again, I'm not certified to teach this, but I'm going to talk high level. There's defective, there's unlovable, and there's unwanted. Those are the 3 main ones if you study the research. Defective is I'm not smart enough or I'm not good enough. Most men have defective as the core wound because basically they're taught you're worthless if you're not successful, pretty much. So the number one form of shame for men is financial, and the number one form of shame for women is body image, statistically. And it makes sense because women are valued for their bodies more than men, and men are valued for, if you're not making 6 figures, you're basically a giant loser. And that kind of enculturated thing. And then some of it's biological too, but whatever. All right. So defective is the main core wound of most men. So they're constantly trying to prove themselves that they're not defective, which ironically makes them more defective because now they're not learning. They're never the student. They're always the leader. And they end up these like overly dominant idiots. Number 2 is unlovable. That happened to be mine. So my stepdad had defective and he was overly dominant and could never be vulnerable. And so I was unlovable. Unlovable, the core wound is I'm not worthy of unconditional love, essentially. And so for me, father passed away at 2, stepfather left at 14. The abandonment challenges, I basically would contort myself to fit in so that I was still loved. I think statistically, women tend to be unlovable more than men, although I do still think that's the smaller percentage of the population in general. And then you've got unwanted, which is just giant walls and boundaries, and these people feel very isolated and alone. And again, I'm speaking high level, so for any clinicians out there, I understand that I'm speaking high level. So no one take everything I'm saying and go apply it, just high level concepts here. So the unlovable needs social courage. The unlovable needs to have the courage. You need to have the courage in that situation to say, honestly, you're overreacting, you're getting defensive, I'm your wife, and you do this all the time, and I need to hold the mirror up. You don't have to shove the mirror in his face, right? But you do have to hold it up, and you have to have the courage to hold it up. And then a defective needs humility. So if he has the humility to look in the mirror, then you will get an apology and ownership. And then after ownership is transformation. So I call it the triad of transformation. Humility, courage, vulnerability. Picture a triangle. Back in college, I took a fire engineering course, and there's a fire triangle where you need oxygen, heat, and fuel in order to create fire. And I think you need humility, courage, and vulnerability in order to create transformation. And defectives need more humility, unlovables need more social courage, and unwanteds need more vulnerability. We all need all 3, but it's the main opposite of the core wound that we have. And so for anyone listening, what's the practicality in this? Identify what your core wound might be. I've started saying this. There's 2 types of people in this world. There's people who are fearful and there's liars. So we're just not afraid of the same things. Kevin and I are business partners. We've been working together for almost 8 years. What we realized is we're both fearful. We're just fearful of 2 different things. He said everyone out there is either afraid that all of them is not enough or that all of them is too much. So you are afraid that all of you is too much, so you dim. You deflate. He is afraid that all of him is not enough. He feels incompetent in that moment, and so he inflates and puffs. So you deflate in proportion to his puff, and that's the turtle puff. And so what really needs to happen is humility, courage, and vulnerability needs to happen, and tears need to come, and or honest ownership. And so at the end of the day, most of our conflict in all intimate relationships, but also relationship dynamics in general, come down to one or both parties lacking either humility, courage, or vulnerability. And I've found no exception to that rule.
Oh my.
I mean, it's just that triad of transformation. People ask me, well, what have you learned coaching couples for 4 years? That if every couple on this planet, including my own, needs more humility, courage, or vulnerability, there's always a bottleneck in one of those 3 areas. So for Emilia, she struggles with vulnerability. I personally struggle with courage. So I'm a coward, and she struggles to let me in. And my courage needs to be there to call her out for that, so that she actually is encouraged to let me in and realize that she's putting up walls. And the reason she puts up walls is because in the past, men really hurt her.
Oh my God. I'm serious. Like, I'm looking at this, and I can relate to so much to Amelia. I ain't gonna lie to you. And my past wasn't so much about, well, both of you, what you were just saying about Amelia as far as is why I was difficult to let men in. It was abandonment issues, right? And so I had a lot of walls.
Same for her.
Oh my gosh. This is interesting.
Well, you're afraid that if you let someone in and they see all of you, how much you actually are, all of you, you're afraid they'll leave because it'll be too much. Yeah.
Yes.
You're afraid you'll be too much for them. And the truth is, you are too much for some men. That's the truth. And so there's a lot of evidence to back that up, right? You showed a man too much too soon. He couldn't handle it. He ran away because he was a coward, right? And that created abandonment issues. So, and women are taught like, oh, don't be too much. Stay small. Hide your light, right? Oh, it's so annoying.
It is. It is. Because it comes out. It's like, because it's like you can only keep up a pretense for so long.
Exactly.
It's true. And we think as in the moment. I remember being in this moment going like, I can do this. I can be cool, calm, collected. I can have him take charge or whatever. It got to a point where it was like I was letting him lead without my counsel.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because when you let the less aware person lead, guess what happens to you and your family? Women do this all the time, and I'm not trying to be unkind here, but you can't let the less intelligent person lead. Yeah. The person who should lead is the person who is the most aware and the most well-developed. I tell Emilia all the time, don't let me lead when you're more aware, and I cannot let you lead when I'm more aware. So fitness, finance, business, like we have it down to a T where I'm supposed to lead. Yeah. But I give her the marker metaphorically when we're in front of the whiteboard when it's her stuff. I mean, the inner work, half this stuff I learned from her. Imagine me leading in the inner work. She's been doing therapy since she was 12 and I'm talking about this stuff. That's the thing, is it's very important you can't let the less intelligent person lead. You can't let the less aware person lead. You can't let the person who's less developed lead. And women do that all the time because they need more courage. And they're fearful that they will be left or hurt if they actually lean into all of who they are.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, 100%. I agree. It's also, when we do step up, we're stepping up at the wrong time. So we've let this go on. Like for me, I would let stuff go on for a little bit. And I'm like, okay, we need to stop. You know, my tone has changed now, right? Because now I'm fed up. And so I'm coming at him super hard because I'm like, I've been dealing with this SHIT for so long, and whatever else. Like, you need to do this, whatever. And he's kind of like, dang, why are you coming at me so hard like that? So then now it's like he feels disrespected. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm kind of like, well, what we've been doing for that. So yeah. And so I think when we let it go too far where we get fed up, now we've created this headbutting, and I call it self-sabotage because I've been holding him to a particular standard without communicating that was my standard. Or I've been holding him to a certain set of expectations without saying, hey, I want you to love on me more. I want you to do this more or whatever. I just fault him for not just knowing that this is what you know what I mean? And so I see this happen so often, and I have to catch myself. I have to catch myself when I'm having certain conversations when I know I'm fed up. When I know I'm fed up, and I have to take, like you said, like accountability that you knew this was going to go away and you did not say anything, and you're upset about what? That it came out exactly what you knew it was, but you didn't inform your partner in it. Right. And so I think it's your relationship coach. I bet it's taken off because the engineer part of you, it comes through because you're so logical when you speak, and men can really, I think, gravitate to that because I don't know, maybe it's just tonality. It's about coming at them and not letting them feel little, insecure, and unintelligent.
Thank you so much. What I've learned about relationship dynamics, effective communication, trust building, the inner work, when Emilia and I first started the Conscious Couples podcast together, I've learned more through that journey than anything ever. As an engineer, I've broken it down into its components and then re-put it together in a way that I think can be powerful for people. And I try really hard to make complex things as simple as possible so that it's practical and achievable. But what I've found, I mean, first of all, most of what I've learned is from Emilia. We do these relationship talks events every single month. Our next one is on our 5 game changers. And most of the content is created by her. I'm just transcoding it because this is her genius zone. So my genius zone is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance. Her genius zone is all the inner work, IFS, CBT, IT, everything inside. So when I first met her 5 years ago, our 5-year anniversary was actually on October 27th. And from the day that we met, and I said intuitively, I don't know how I came up with this, but I said, I'm going to teach you the external world. You're going to teach me the internal one. And it was yin and yang, and it's been that way ever since. And, she already understood the external world more than most, and I understood the internal world more than most at that point. But together, the yin and yang infinity symbol has been unbelievably, it's been powerful. So I'm learning so much from her, but also from coaching so many people, because there are root cause analyses. Most couples don't know why they're fighting. You can't expect new fruit without studying the root. And the root cause of most issues have nothing to do. We have a joke. We say it's never about the bowl. We have this couple that we've been coaching for years. Shout out to Brandon and Hannah. And there was this time they were going away, and Hannah had left a bowl of cereal out for herself, like a bowl for her cereal. And she was fully prepared, fully packed, right? Ready to rock. Yeah. Logistics taken care of. Everything's good. She's got it ready. And he just unknowingly grabbed the bowl, ate cereal out of it like an idiot. And she got very upset. And he's like, it's just a bowl. It's not just a bowl, sir. Right. It's the fact that, and he admits this too. So Brandon, you're the man. He's humble enough to say, yeah, no, it's being inconsiderate. It's not appreciating the fact that she basically plans and does everything. There's a great documentary you and I have talked about offline about, it's called Fair Play. One of my female clients, I coach a married couple. This is actually not, I coach them both in business. They own a business together. And I don't coach them in their intimate relationship, although obviously that's part of it. But the female in the relationship, her name's Linda. She came and spoke at one of our tea events about this documentary called Fair Play. In the documentary, you can look it up. It's called Fair Play, and it's based on a book. I forget the woman's name, but ultimately what it talks about is what's known as invisible work and what's known as cognitive labor. So invisible work is all the things that go unnoticed. So for example, I was on a podcast earlier today, and there was a female in the room when I got in, and the host I thought was a male. And she said, no, I'm not the host. I'm just his executive admin. So what Laura is to you, my executive admin, her name is Laura. What Laura is to you, I am to him. Oh. And I said, thank you so much for all the invisible work you do. And she felt very seen in that moment. And she said, well, what do you mean invisible work? I said, well, Laura does a lot behind the scenes to make these happen. Just because I'm on the podcast, I don't want to not acknowledge all the other things beneath the iceberg that make all this happen.
Yes.
Another example would be Christina on my team. She's the chief operations officer, COO of our company, and she's the backbone of the company. She literally knows how to do everything. She handles supporting the team. She handles IT. She handles the entire website. Like, she's basically, anyone who needs anything basically goes to Christina. And that frees Kevin and I up to be out here doing our thing. But we don't ever want to not acknowledge Christina, because without Christina, there's no way we'd be able to play at this level. Seriously. So fair play is invisible work, cognitive labor. Cognitive labor is all the mental work that no one sees. So Emilia thinking about the pets, the cats, and the dog when we're going away, the invisible work of booking the flights and making sure Thanksgiving goes well. All of those things that women do that never get seen and never get appreciated, they pile up. And then eventually it's like, F you, son. And then it becomes this giant fight. And the man's sitting there going, I don't know. When in reality, and again, sometimes it's the opposite too. Some men are doing a lot more than women realize and vice versa. But at the end of the day, this is what I think is very practical. The volcano's going to explode one way or another. Yeah. The suppression of self-expression leads to depression or explosion. So either someone's going to get depressed and shut down because they don't feel seen, heard, appreciated, or valued, or they're going to freaking explode. And so what I say is, don't let the volcano explode and take the island. Instead, be vulnerable and let tears fly and let the lava ooze out from the top so that it doesn't destroy the island. It actually makes the island bigger. And I think that's a really cool metaphor, because whenever I've been ready to explode in my intimate relationship, I'm very grateful. I grew up in a household, my mom and stepdad did not get along, and that's a polite way to put it on a freaking public medium. Holy crap. Yeah. But I grew up in a household that was explosion after explosion. And when Emilia and I first got together, she said, we're never going to fight. And I was like, well, I want to be with you forever, and you've told me you want to be with me forever, and never going to fight? I mean, that sounded genuinely impossible to me at the time. She said, well, Alan, when you fight, there's a winner and a loser, and when you fight, no one wins. And I was like, okay. And she said, well, we're never going to fight, because when you fight, everyone loses. And I remember thinking, there's no chance. How is that going to happen? Like, we're going to, of course, have conflict. I'm telling you, 5 years later, no joke, there's never once been yelling. There's never once been storming out. There's never once been slamming of doors or hanging up on. Now, we've had our challenging moments, but we've never once raised our voice or stormed out, ever. Now, here's the truth. I got to be clear about this. She stopped me when I was starting to get to a certain decibel level.
Yeah.
Okay. There was some physical pointing of fingers, and there was some decibel increase. And then she would stop me and say, Alan, you're getting a little bit intense. And then I would look in the mirror and go, okay, it's time for me to pump the brakes here. Then I would go vulnerable and just basically cry. Yeah. But ultimately, you got to go vulnerable. Otherwise, you're going to destroy the island. And sometimes you rip apart strings that you can't sew back. So at the end of the day, it is possible to have a relationship where there isn't fighting. You can handle conflict healthy. And that doesn't mean to shame yourself if you've been in a fight. Trust me, this is the only intimate relationship I can say, honestly, I've never fought in. In the past, for sure, yelling. I punched a hole in a door once. That was terrible. I've never, ever let it get to an extreme extent. But I remember one night way back in my early 20s, I was really, really angry and I punched a door, and I ended up having to buy her a new door. And I'm very ashamed of that. But the truth is, when you work on yourself and you go to therapy and you understand your trauma and you understand where you grew up, because there's two ways to look at it. It's like, okay, he punched a door, that's too aggressive. But where I grew up, that ain't nothing.
Right.
I was, I'm not going to get into it, but trust me, punching a door was nothing. And so you just got to understand where you came from, and you got to grow beyond that. But unfortunately, you won't until you do the inner work necessary to really understand that stuff.
Oh, that explains taking it back to the root. I mean, that's good. I don't know how we got so much into this session, and I feel like we can talk for another 30, 40 minutes on this for sure. But do you have any golden nuggets that you want to add some catch up just to leave the people with?
Thank you so much again. I want to start with gratitude, end with gratitude, sandwich everything in gratitude, particularly the great stuff. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. I really do appreciate it. I used to say I want self-improvement to spread like COVID, and Kevin was like, dude, do not say that. And I was like, oh, but my engineering brain, he's like, dude, do not say that. So what I started saying is COVID spread exponentially, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. And it spread exponentially. That's what made it so scary. And I want self-improvement to spread that same way. And that's why I'm here. So thank you for helping me do that. I appreciate it. And as for what I would leave the listeners with regarding any last sort of words of wisdom, or I would say every good thing starts with personal responsibility and someone taking personal responsibility. I don't want you to take all the responsibility, because you got to be careful in that, especially in intimate relationships. I remember I was in one intimate relationship where I was pointing at me and she was also pointing at me. You know what I'm saying? So that was... Now, here's the interesting thing. I got all the growth. I kept growing, kept learning, kept improving. And then eventually I had worked on all the things that she was pointing at me for. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, nothing's gotten any better. I've worked on all these things and I've gotten way better, but yet our relationship has actually gotten worse. Oh, it isn't me. Whoa. That was a big realization. And luckily I left that person, because in hindsight, that was, honestly, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Yeah. Anyone here have a relationship that they wish they had never been in? I have one, and that's the one. But anyways, so personal responsibility is, it's not my fault my dad died when I was 2. It's not my fault my mom and stepdad fought. It's not my fault my stepdad left at 14. It's not my fault that I kind of lost 3 families by the time I'm 14. That's a whole story in and of itself. But it is for damn sure my responsibility to make a meaningful life out of that. And I think that if you believe in yourself even a little bit, you can take responsibility and start small. But oftentimes self-belief and humility don't walk hand in hand. So you need to have the self-belief to know you can build that bigger, better, brighter future, and the humility to start small. Because if you don't, you'll keep self-sabotaging, to your point.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sets us up for hopefully another episode, but we're going to close this one. That was great. That's the episode today. What I think is so amazing is our ability to learn. Your approach can make the difference to the few or the many. Improve the North Star trajectory or derail it. Spur a new contribution to your services or widen the chasm of differences. We're all guilty of oversimplifying the complexity that is generational trauma. Just because we start there doesn't mean we become a firm and rigid fixture. We are more than that. We are fluid, constantly changing as the target does. I truly hope that Alan's journey through understanding the real disparities of women and with this newfound insight has enabled him to communicate across not only gender, cultures, traditions, and so on. I encourage everyone to embrace the I wonders and the whys. We are an open book. All you need to do is ask. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Alan, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources or reach out to you.
Thank you. That was an awesome end there as well. That was awesome. I really appreciate it. You can find me at nextleveluniverse.com. We've got a book club we do every week. We've got monthly meetups that we do for free. I have 2 podcasts. One of them is the Conscious Couples podcast, which I talked about with my beautiful girlfriend, Emilia, future wife. And we also have Next Level University podcast. Next Level You, level up your life, love, health, and wealth. 1% improvement in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free. That is Next Level University. And you can reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you Google my name, all those will come up. This is what I've started saying. If you have humility and work ethic and you want to earn your way to success and fulfillment, you are going to love us and you're going to love what we do, and we're going to help you. If you are entitled and arrogant and you want maximum rewards for minimal effort, you're going to absolutely hate me, and please do not reach out.
Enough said. All right. Well, I'll make sure to include all of Alan's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving with Meaning the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on the Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We're creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82 and on Pinterest at Arthur KB Clark. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My Etsy store has some handy dandy digital downloads. Lastly, run over to my YouTube channel and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving with Meaning the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.